I asked the question this morning, what is the worst enemy that you have? And so let's see if somebody cares to venture to answer that. What is the worst enemy that you have? Brother Dave, you have been on the limelight too much today already, you know. Just a second. You know what? Let's go away from the danger zone. I'd like to introduce Brother Aldo Herrera. He is a pastor in Jacksonville, but also works on, he does painting as part of his living. And so, anyway, that's who we have here on my left, in case that you didn't have a chance to check who he was. But yeah, what is your answer, brother? Self. Okay. It sounds like a good one. So, anybody else?
Well, are we talking about individuals, or are we talking about as a whole, or people or Christians?
For an individual person, you know, let's say, in our case, well, we're the believers. So, what is our worst enemy?
Self. My sinful shell. I mean,
you guys are poor examples to the community. So,
And I talked about this in the car today. I said faithlessness, and he said unbelief.
Okay. Well, the Bible does talk about an evil heart of unbelief, right? Okay. But that may go back to self, the self that does not trust. I'd like to invite you to open your Bibles to 2 Samuel. And as you turn in there, because the character this evening, once again, is David. Now, if you remember some of David's exploits, he killed a bear, he killed a lion, and you know, probably a couple of years ago, I was driving to the farm, and somebody had hit a bear. It was a baby, a cub, and that thing stood, you know, by 8 tall, good size, the good size of dog size, you know, but somebody had hit him, and so another man and I took some rope out of my vehicle. We took him off the highway, and he was calling out. And then all of a sudden, it dawned on me, what if Mama Bear comes out? You know, and that really put some fear, you know, into my little bones, because that would really be messy. But she didn't. Some years ago, I was watching it was on TV. They were trying to promote adopt a pet, and they brought a cat that was the poster child, you know. So they brought this cat on a leash to say, you know what, hey, you gotta adopt cats, adopt dogs, and whatever. So this little cat went the circle right on there as they were filming for this commercial. Well, for this sell out the cats, you know. And that thing wrapped around the man's leg and lashed onto his leg to his thigh. You know. Needless to say, I don't think Psycho Kitty made it to anybody's home, you know. But the reason I mentioned those two, because we can say, you know, okay, he killed a lion. Maybe it was just a snow leopard. Or maybe it was just a puma. Go ahead, go kill a kitty cat, you know. You get my picture? He killed a bear. What kind was it? Oh, it wasn't a grizzly, probably. It wasn't a brown bear. It wasn't any of that. It was probably just a black bear or some Asian, you know, those bears. It's no big deal. What kind? A panda? Yeah. It looks so cute. So, this man had done some exploits. We didn't look into it this morning, but he killed Goliath. And he killed other men that were true warriors. And so, but I ask you, which one of these was his greatest enemy? Okay? Though he is described as a man after God's own heart, if not, as we're gonna read here, what we're gonna read, we're gonna find out that David was his own worst enemy. And I do believe that ourselves, we could, one of you could have said Satan. That's our worst enemy. Well, he is a formidable enemy. Okay? But while he is formidable, he is truly terrible, he is not our worst enemy. Because, I'll answer that in just a minute. Will you stand with me to 2 Samuel chapter 11? And we'll begin reading on verse 1. And it came to pass, verse 1, and it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel. And they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah, but David tarried still at Jerusalem. That in itself there does not appear to be problematic at all. Okay? And it came to pass in an eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon. And David sent and inquired after the woman, and one said, "Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" And David sent messengers and took her. And she came in unto him, and he lay with her, for she was purified from her uncleanness. And she returned unto her house, and the woman conceived, and sent and told David, and said, "I am with child." Let's pray. Father, within the context, Lord, of what we have just read, help us, Lord, to understand what this time in the history of David, Lord, brought upon him and his family. What were some of the mistakes that he made? And Lord, how he could have perhaps avoided this, and how we, now in our time, Lord, likewise can avoid making the same mistakes, and therefore, Lord, we can avoid receiving the same punishment. For we ask in the name of Jesus, Lord, and for his sake. Amen. Please be seated. I think that every one of us needs to be where we ought to be. We need to be doing what we are supposed to be doing, and we need to be with the people that we're supposed to be, and when we're supposed to be. Don't ask me to repeat that. But every one of us needs to be where we ought to be, when we need to be, with the people that we should be, doing the things that we ought to be doing. And David failed on that. Having killed a bear, having killed a lion, having killed Goliath, having had great success as a king thus far, having been a man described as a man after God's own heart, having been, if you will, the most successful thus far king in Israel yet, though only the second one, but he failed in having self-control. Okay? Now, I want you to go to Deuteronomy 17, because we're going to look at something here that was requirement for every king in Israel. Every one of these kings was required to have this, at the very least, as part of his introduction to the kingdom. Okay, so Deuteronomy 17. I'm almost there. There we go. And look at verse 14. when thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, this is God speaking to the people of Israel, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. So you realize first, number one, God has to choose him, and it has to be or will be from among themselves. It cannot be a stranger. It says, thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as the Lord hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away, neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. Now remember, these are the same, you might say, instructions for Solomon. And yet we know that Solomon violated every one of these things, and he ended up a dismal failure. So I do believe, once again, self being the greatest problem there. Verse 17 again, neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. And it shall be, when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book, out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. I'll read that again. And it shall be, when he, the king, sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book, out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes, to do them, that his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. That is somewhat of a lengthy reading, but if you were reading beyond the eyes, you realize that there were a lot of practical injunctions here for him. Considering that he was to write a book of the law, considering that he was to read daily on it, considering that he was enjoined to fight, considering that the purpose for this was that his heart would not, considering that it was for him not to go away from his God, considering that he will remain humble. Okay? And he pretty much violated that. He got himself more than enough wives, and he got some other things. So back to Samuel chapter 11. It came to pass after the year was expired. Okay, now if we were to read before, you'll find that they had just had a great victory against the Syrians. But it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle. Now realize this, this was something that they did. It was a manner of the way for the kings of those days. They would go to battle. Part of it was to protect their own borders. Part of it was to provision themselves of things that they needed for their own people and so forth. And so they would go to battle. And so at that time, rather than him being the leader for these people, he remained behind. So I said to you that it is for us to be where we need to be, when we need to be, with the people that we need to be, and doing the things that we need to be doing. Take, for instance, Sundays. Are we supposed to be in church? Of course, we say, yeah, because we're here. But what about if we were not here? Then, well, yeah. But to be true, we don't live under the law. Yet the Bible does command us not to forsake the assembling of ourselves together. And right now that we are here, it could be very easy to talk about the people that are not here. Why? Because it is not falling upon us. So it would be wrong for us to do that. Why? Because it is wrong. But if we make it, and all of us from time to time will fail from being in church. All of us from time to time will be in church and fail to be in church. All that. Did I say all of us from time to time will be in church but fail to be in church? Yes. Why? Because we come here and in body we find ourselves here. But in spirit we're somewhere else. And I'm not saying, oh, I left the rose at home. I'm thinking, why? No, we're not here. We don't want to be here, but we're here. Why? Because we're supposed to do that. And so we do it, going through the motions and all that. But in reality, we fail to be here. It's a good thing. Someone said the other day, it's a good thing that we don't live under Old Testament economy. Because the truth of the matter is, we probably will all be wiped out at some point or another. But does that mean that we are less responsible towards God? Absolutely not. There are some things that every child of God is supposed to do at certain times. And when we don't, we do get in trouble. There are some things that no child of God should do at any time. And when we do, of course, we get in trouble. There are times that we end up rubbing elbows with people that we don't want to rub elbows with, but we have to do it because we live in this world, and otherwise we would have to be out of this world. But there's nothing to say that we have to become like the people that we rub elbows with in order to be in this world. Take, for instance, go to, I think it's 1 Corinthians 5. I'm probably wrong, but we'll see. First Corinthians 5, verse 9. Got it? I wrote unto you, Paul says here, he wrote unto a church that was a church, kind of worldly and all that church, but it was believers. He said, I wrote unto you in an epistle or a letter, not to company with fornicators, yet not altogether with the fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or with idolaters. No, he said, I wrote to you not to rub elbows with such people. But he said, not altogether, meaning not the people from the world. That's what he's saying. Why? How many of us that go to work outside rub elbows with these people? We all do to some degree or another. That's what the kind of people that we work with. Okay? I got on the phone with my son-in-law just a few weeks ago, and it was just towards the end of the day when I was coming back to the shop. And so I entered the shop with the phone on me. But I had it on speaker because I don't like to put it on my face. So I had it on speaker. And of course, I'm hearing him, but he's hearing all the junk that was going on around. So I say, hey, I'm sorry, hang on a second. So I have to step out. Okay. Now I cannot get on those guys. Why? Because they're doing the things that come natural to them. They're speaking in the way that they speak about themselves, even to their wives, and so anyway. But he says, yet not altogether with the fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or with idolaters. Why not? For then must ye needs go out of the world. In other words, you cannot avoid it. Remember the days that maybe you decide, you know what, I'm not going to shop on any store that sells liquor or cigarettes. Find one. In other words, this is applicable to that. You cannot find one. So you are in this world, and you're going to have to go to certain stores because you're gonna buy the groceries, and you go to the pharmacy. And by all means, you expect that they wouldn't sell that kind of stuff, and yet it's all there. And all the things that they should not be selling, but it's there. So he said, I wrote to you not to do certain things, but not necessarily with the people of the world. Why not? He said, for them must ye needs go out of this world, or out of the world. But now, he said, I have written unto you not to keep company. If any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, or covetous, or an idolater, or a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, with such and one no, not do it. Now you have to ask yourself, why would you have a brother or sister that will fall under these categories? Okay, or like chapter 6, verse 9, know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God, verse 9, 6:9, 1 Corinthians. So be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, or thieves, blah, 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 goes on and on. He said, and such were some of you. But what is he saying? That they were doing these things. The question is, why were they doing them? Well, what happened to David? David did not go to where he was supposed to go. David was not with the people that he was supposed to be. Every Sunday, before I got saved, I used to complain. When we lived in Maine, I used to complain, nothing is open on Sunday. Okay? And it was true. A lot of places, most of the places were closed on Sunday. Now that I look at it from the pastor's perspective, I wish most places were closed on Sundays. Absolutely, except the ones that we really absolutely need. But you see, you see the people with the boats every Sunday. You see the people with the mud vehicles every Sunday, Friday, Saturday. You see, and all the things. Is there anything wrong with the boat? Not at all. If you can afford it and not break your bank account. With the RVs, not at all. With the motorcycles, with the UTVs or ATVs, nothing at all, and absolutely nothing. But when we substitute the Lord's Day for that, there is a problem. And when the child of God purchases those things with the money that belongs to God, there is a problem. It's like, oh, you're back to money. No, absolutely not. What I'm saying to you is that we get to this that Paul was addressing because we are not where we need to be, when we need to be, with the people that we have to be, doing the things that we should be doing. And that is not just for Sunday. Because Christianity is not just a Sunday only thing. Christianity is an everyday, it's a life, it's a way of life. It's our communication. So it is not just about Sunday. So every day I go to work, I'm still the Christian. I was talking to my lead man. And this because there's a particular fellow that appears to judge everybody in one way or another. And to me, one day he said, and you're a pastor? Well, that's not a good testimony from your pastor. For somebody to say, and you're a pastor? Am I fired? Well, here's the thing. And you know it. Now, I don't understand familiarity can breed contempt. But on the other hand, where I can take life light, I'm going to take it light. Because in other areas, life is heavy. So if I can take life light right here, like I do with work, and I don't mean working yet, but just, I go to work at 7, get out at 3:30, and work is work, and that's it. I'm not going to lose sleep over work. Don't tell me to take it serious that I'm carrying a burden over work, and then say, and you're a pastor. Now, at work, yeah, I play with the guys, but only to a degree. Why? Because they know who I am. I have pretty much witnessed to every one of them. They know who I am. They know what I do. And I do not, and have not, and I tell you this, have used a bad word since, say, 30-some years ago. Okay? I have not gotten into a fist fight since about that many years. Maybe I have been close to that part to coming to fist. But I have not, and thank God for that, and I have tried not to. But I do take light. I do make light of some things that are not offensive to others. But this fellow said, and you're a pastor? What do you mean? You mean I have to be stiff? You mean I have to be, stilted for you to believe that I'm a preacher? I don't find that in the scriptures. Now you say, well, the man has to be sober. Well, being sober and being dead is two different things. And I seriously believe that. So I have no problem with that. Okay? I'm not going to be just because he feels like that's okay. Now, but when we are not what we need to be, and when we make it so that we do not choose overall the people of God to, and when we go into like that, then is where we end up in trouble. He chose not to go to where he needed to be because he was a leader. Some years ago, and I have said this before, I was choosing not to be in church, and I was letting my wife be the leader, letting her be the one that would take the kids to church. Why? Because I was feeling sorry for myself in those days, so I looked for excuses not to be in church. Okay? I can say to you that I did not get into mischief because I did it, but neither was I doing what I needed to be doing. I wasn't being the leader for my wife. I wasn't being the leader for my children. Now, can I say that there was no consequence from that? I can't. Because only God knows what consequence might have come from that. And while sometimes we don't think that we give an example to others, we always give an example. I am very mild-mannered when it comes to driving. My wife, on the other hand, she's a little wild. Is that what it is? No, semi the other way around. But anyway, it's my story. But let's say, for instance, okay, driving. We don't get behind the wheel. Now, listen, this is how you drive. But we get behind the wheel and we show them how to drive. And how do we show them how to drive? You cut people off. Why? Because it is your right to be ahead of the line if you want to be. And when they cut you off, you get angry, you tell them, how ignorant, how unsmart, how anything else that these people are, but don't curse because that's not bad. I mean, that's bad for Christian, but make sure to use Christian and not cursing, as long as it's Christian, so you let them know, at least in your mind, that was wrong to cut you off. Okay? And you can feel their urge to run them off the road, as long as you don't do it. Do the kids perceive that? Do you think? The temperature in the car, you can feel it. They know it. I have failed on that miserably from time to time. Not too often. Maybe about 90% of the time only. But that's it. I don't think so. But we do fail. So we have to understand then, what were his failures? He chose not to be with his people, leading them, doing what they needed to do at that time. And he chose, instead of that, to remain at home idle. And idleness, you hear, is the devil's portion. An idle mind is the devil's portion. So now, idleness in today's society. He didn't have much to worry about. Did he know that woman lived next door? Maybe not. Let's say he did. But idleness, at the moment where everyone was over there, he wasn't keeping up, with virtual. He wasn't keeping up with the battle. No, he was just at home doing what? Doing nothing. And so while he was doing nothing, he wakes up this evening, so he decides to walk up on the roof. And what does he see? Below. While he was idle, he just decided to walk up on the roof, call his phone, and he began to scroll. Idle. Not through the pictures of the grandkids, not through the pictures of their kids when they went to Hollywood or whatever, not through any of that, but he begins to scroll on his phone. And what does he see? Oh, something that I haven't seen. Where did this come from? I don't know. What is it? I'm not sure. Oh, there is more of this. Okay? So being where you're not supposed to be, being without, if you will, the protection of the group, he got in trouble. And all of a sudden, is now, let's go back over there and then let me show you something real quick here. So the first mistake is not to have gone. Okay? And then it came to pass in an evening tide. So now I can see that he's getting bored. That David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. I'm telling you, at this point, he is bored. And from the roof, he saw a woman washing herself. Now, maybe he could have packed his clothes and gone, you know what, I made a mistake, let me go see how my boys are doing. But when he got on his roof and he saw what he saw, that should have been the end of the story. He should have gone downstairs. Joseph, when Potiphar's wife tried to get him to commit adultery with her, took off running. What was wrong with that? Well, wasn't he a man? You know, why did he take off running? Because that was not his wife. Because the woman was a wicked woman. She was a married woman. And had she not been married, would that have made it okay? No, it still be fornication. So the point is here that there were signposts that could have diverted him, but he did not take them. The Lord will not allow us to be tempted above that which we're able. We say, well, that has to do with trials. Well, the truth is, on temptations, God gives you ways out. You have to take them. So he gets the first signpost. Oops, turn the other way. All right? He did it. So now, instead of walking away from that, he inquires about her. So verse 3, David sent and inquired after the woman. Wait a minute, David, aren't you married? He was. With more than one wife by now. So why did he need to be inquiring about this woman? He had no need to inquire. So there was another signpost because God has said that they should not have any wives. Truly, God did believe that one man, one woman. He put it all the way from Genesis. So you already have your quota. That second signpost, he decided to ignore it. So then he goes. So then the answer comes. Oh, and one said, is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of such a man? Oh, another signpost. What should he have done? Close the book. 3 signposts right there that he ignored completely. He let him go. So what follows, it was natural to follow. Now, she's not innocent. Definitely, she's not innocent. Why? I could say, well, what was she doing up there? Did she think that she was totally private? No. So I'm not gonna go there either. I'm dealing with David. When he brought her over, yes, Mr. King, what can I do for you? This is what I want. Oh, no, sir. But she didn't do that. Was she guilty? Absolutely. But we're dealing with him right now. You need to be where you need to be, when you need to be, with the people that you need to be, doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself perhaps in idle moments. You're going to find yourself filling these idle moments with things that you're not supposed to be. You're going to find yourself filling these idle moments with people that you're not supposed to be doing it. And you're going to find yourself ignoring every signpost that God gives you. And then the end is going to be one that you're going to collect nothing but evil. Now, we could go on to see what happened to him. There is no need. Not tonight. Okay? Not tonight. Couple of thoughts do come to me. I said, who was his worst enemy? His worst enemy was himself. In what way? He knew what God wanted him to do. This book of the law. He ignored the book. He ignored the commands that he had from God. Second, if you will, there is that he put himself above his men. Uriah the Hittite, as I read further, was an extremely loyal man to him. And yet David put himself above him. I have more right to your wife than you do. So she's mine. I have more right to your wife and to your life than you do. So I take your life with you also. So not only did he ignore the word of God and violated the law of God, is that he put himself above his men. Rather than to be with them, he put himself above them. And that is why he did what he did. How could he have corrected this? I said, God gives us signposts, and it is up to us to take them. You know, I was telling someone yesterday, I'm watching a movie right now. It's kind of gore. I said, but he said on the days of swords and bows and arrows, it was the days of the Mongols. Okay? So there were no machine guns. All it was is swords, bows, and spears and whatever. Okay? I said, but that's all it is. There's no language and there is nothing of sexuality, whatever. Okay. So me, I'm watching that and, you know, okay. And then all of a sudden, they throw me one. I'm like, oops. Put your hand on it. What? Because the devil doesn't rest. The devil does not take any breaks. And the devil knows how to get to you where you are. Just like God knows where you are, just like God knows what you're doing, the devil knows where you are, what you're doing, and how he can get you. Listen, let's not be fools. Men are driven by sight. Men are driven by ear. Men are driven by senses. And Satan knows that. He knows it. That's why he was able to get to David. And that's why he's also able to get to men in this day and age. Did you know, maybe you didn't, but there is lots and lots of men, and I'm going to say this not being facetious, better men than I, preachers,